The older you get, the more funerals you attend. Well, here it is 2018, time for more reflections on the past 2 years. This year we had a cluster of funerals of close friends and relatives. It certainly makes you reflect on your mortality and how you should appreciate the time you have with those around you. My health has been relatively good, and also that of Merlene. A few battle scars with skin cancer and a troublesome sciatic nerve in my leg are my only problems. It is good to still be above ground. Jim Marquis was a friend for many years. He and his wife Alana would attend Thanksgiving and Christmas at our house. Their only child lives in South Carolina, and they adopted our family for these gatherings. He passed away from Alzheimer's after spending his last year at the same memory care center as Mom and Dad. The funeral was held at the chapel on the military base adjoining Arlington Memorial Cemetery in Washington, D.C. The service included a full military marching band, a horse-drawn caisson with 8 horses and riders, a marching honor guard, and finally a 4-jet flyover in the Missing Man formation. Jim was a founding member of the Wild Weasels combat wing during the Vietnam War. The North Vietnamese were using mobile SAM sights to shoot down the United States aircraft at alarming rates. The SAM missiles were radar-controlled. The Wild Weasels flight group was equipped with the latest electronics that could backtrack the radar signal. Jim would fly in and attract the missiles while backtracking their radar signals to the mobile ground sites. A secondary group would then destroy the sites. He was a decoy, a sitting duck, and had to dodge the missiles that were targeting him. We flew to DC and attended the funeral and spent an afternoon and night doing the tourist thing around the Capitol. Just a few weeks later, my first cousin Glenna Beth Dozier passed away after a battle with cancer. She was about 10 years my junior. A month or so after this funeral, Mac McQuistion passed after battling a year of dialysis. Mac and Catherine had been neighbors to Mom and Dad for 58 years and friends even longer. I grew up with them and they were a close link to my parents and Forney. Just last week Catherine McQuistion suddenly passed away at the age of 96. It seems as if I have lost the last link to my childhood years and memories at Forney. Nearing Christmas 2018. Hunter as a little boy was asked if he had a good day. He responded, "It was the boringest day of my life, except for the ice cream." Well, this was one of the bestest years of my life, except for the funerals. So, what happened this year? Trump got elected president and the stock market shot up. George Bush 41 passed away in Houston. Mass invasions of immigrants from Central America at the border. We sold the Nautilus Lake house on Cedar Creek Lake. Austin started college at TCU. Lily started high school as a freshman at Midlothian. Hunter is in college at Texas Tech at Lubbock. Fisher is in college at Tarleton in Stephenville. Aubrey is in her senior year of college at TCU. Merlene is involved with her China painting and membership of several clubs and organizations. I am slightly bored. Bored is when there is not a lot that you want to do, but plenty of things you don't want to do. My hip and leg have slowed down motorcycle riding. It's too cold for much golf. Yard fun, work, is difficult in wet and cold weather. I still have plenty of paperwork and worries, however. I still manage the Maple Avenue property that is in the Generation Skipping Trust. I still manage the Southland Warehouse property that is in Stark Brothers Realty. I still manage the college accounts for all the grandkids. I still manage and record all the financial accounts that pay for our lifestyle. I remember when my mother would complain that OV would go into his room for the day, and would not come out and visit with her. His room was where his computer, filing cabinet, and desk were located. Well, you know you are getting old when you see yourself as your father. I know this sounds like a depressed person, but that is not the case. It is just the time of year when we are trapped in the house with our thoughts and TV. That is probably why I am spending the time adding to this chronicle. Thanksgiving and Christmas are when you are supposed to count your blessings, and yes, I have been blessed. Blessed to have had, and now have a wonderful family. Blessed to have good friends. Blessed to have plentiful finances. Blessed to be able to see my children and grandchildren thrive. Blessed to have good health. Blessed to have a caring and loving wife. Pandemic 2020, the coronavirus, COVID-19. I just read the last entry about Christmas 2018. Wow, my world has not changed, but the younger generation is moving on. Hunter has been living in Montana, Fisher is still in Tarleton but has a job with HEB, Lily is 16 going on 17. Aubrey is married and working as a stylist and retail clerk at a high-end boutique. Austin is now pursuing a degree online in media. Literally the whole world is in lockdown during this virus outbreak. I think most of us are not sure if this is overblown or the end of our world as we have known it. I think the virus will be conquered, but not sure about the results on the economy and our lifestyle in the future. Merlene and I have been staying at home with limited contact from others. Our girls and grandkids have brought us groceries every few days as a way of limiting our exposure. This virus seems to be fatal to mostly the older and weaker generation. I am now 79 and am pre-diabetic, which puts me in the danger zone. I just talked with our renter for the farm store property and he asked if he can skip the next rent payments until this is over. Every non-essential business is closed and what choices do he, or I, have? My investments have taken a 25% loss, but thankfully we have few bills and are in no financial stress. We have now been in lockdown for about 3 weeks. Merlene has been buying food from Jenny Craig and I have been eating with Nutrisystem. The positive result is that we are not tempted to eat out since that requires drive-through, no contact, delivery. Walking, yard work, computer, those are our diversions since we can't hug our kids. How long will this last? Will we lose one of our loved ones? Will our economic future be affected? Is this the apocalypse or just a brief bump in the road of life? Probably just a bump. I hope. August 2021, and the virus is still here. Looking back on the last post, a lot has changed but not the virus. Hunter and Darian are back in Midlothian with a baby boy due in October. Aubrey is also pregnant and is due the last of September with a baby girl. Austin has graduated and has started a thriving wedding video business. Merlene and I have been vaccinated and not been touched by the virus yet. The chicks had a bout but only with minor illness for a brief time. We, however, have just started anew with the Delta variant and cases are suddenly rising again. Merlene had her right knee replaced and is doing great now. My big news is that I noticed a lump in my neck. After scans and tests it turns out that I have thyroid cancer. It has been removed and am currently waiting to receive radioactive iodine treatment to finish off any remaining traces. Hopefully, I will be done with this by the end of the year with no more surgeries or treatments other than thyroid replacement drugs. We went to New Mexico for the last couple of days at the end of the Pierce vacation. After they left, we decided to take a look at a property just up the road for sale. It was fabulous. And we bought it the next day. I guess when you are 80 years old and forced to face your mortality, it is okay to do crazy things. We are putting the old Stark house up for sale and moving this month. It is hard to leave 35 years of memories, but we will make new ones with our new great-grandchildren. One of my recent things is to write a short letter to my girls and their children to include with their Christmas gifts. It is my feeble attempt to impart some wisdom and grounding into their lives. Following is this year's letter. My Dream. By Les Stark, Christmas 2021. As I lay in my bed last night on the eve of Christmas Eve, my life began to unfold in my mind. The places I've been, things done, people met, family and accomplishments all flashed by as if flipping the pages of a book. The one that seemed to mean the most though, was the words from my mother and father. That they loved me and were proud of me. You would expect that a mother or father would think this of their child, but these were spoken to me near the end of their lives and in fact very late in my life. I treasure and take gratification in that they felt this way about the way I had lived my life to that point. To love or be loved takes little effort, just a total commitment and trust to that person. But to be honored by your parents by voicing their pride in you requires much, much more. I was not taught my life ethics in a class or lecture, but by the living examples of my parents and grandparents. To love my family and friends. To respect others, especially the older generations. To work hard at all I attempted. To be disciplined, even if it was not pleasant. To better myself through education and accomplishments. To be honest in all things. These life ethics are not always easy to follow. Having generations before you that set good examples, however, makes things easier. So, as stated before, I am honored that my parents were truly proud of me. The dream continued, however, and I began to dwell on how I could pass this feeling on to you this Christmas. This letter is my feeble attempt to put into words some of the dream and my feelings about our family and you. It seems that now I have taken on the position of family elder as father, grandfather, and great-grandfather. My hope is that I have set that same example for you that my parents lived for me. I give this letter to you as a Christmas offering that I hope will make you feel pride in your own life while knowing that Merlene and I love and are proud of you. January 2022, third year of the pandemic. The great news is that we have 2 new great-grandchildren, Stella Wegner and Jaeger Pierce, born just 3 days apart. Both are beautiful and healthy babies, and we could not be prouder. Even though they are both here locally, it does not seem that we get to see them enough. I realize that the younger generations have work, responsibilities, and lives of their own to follow. As great-grandparents, we are just part of the long list of grandparents, cousins, etc. that want to share in their time. As a child, I had no great-grandparents except for one vague memory of my great-grandfather Hal. He was my grandmother Beulah Dozier's father. That visual photo in my mind was of a thin old white-haired man sitting on the front porch of my Mama Doe's house in the country outside Forney. But such is the nature of life. We pass down our love to future generations, and though we may not be present in their every moment, our influence remains eternal. Now we have Stella and Jaeger, 2 blessings to hold. And though we must share their time, our love will unfold. For they are a part of us, and we are a part of them. A family bond that will never, ever end. The old New Mexico Starkhouse sold after only 3 days on the market. Surprisingly, there seemed to be few tears about leaving all the memories we created there. We did move some of the furniture and a lot of the knick-knacks to the new cabins and lodge, so hopefully those draw along the spirits of those memories past. While recovering from my cancer operation, we spent some time at the new Starkhouse Eagle Mountain Lodge and started moving stuff to the new location. Steve Green, Sievert Nielsen and Lee Swafford came up for a few days, and we had a great reunion and enjoyed their help and presence. Donnie, John and Austin came up on their way to their week of motorcycle adventuring. They moved the snowmobiles and heavy furniture to mostly complete the transfer from one Starkhouse to the new Starkhouse. Our last trip as of this writing was the annual after Christmas week. However, there were only Kristen, Fisher, Merlene and I. Mark has a new job, Lily had a big basketball tournament, Hunter had work and baby commitments, Donnie was busy with the new warehouse, and so on. The wind blew and the snow fell, so we were limited to the house most of the time while there. It snowed more than 16 inches that week, and we were just learning about the road clearing and snow removal. On arrival that week, it had been snowing for the previous 2 days. Our neighbor Jeff had snowplowed the road, and with my all-wheel drive Kia Telluride, I had no trouble entering. Chris with her front-wheel drive Kia Telluride had to make a few runs at the entry gate to make it over the snow pile. While there, I utilized the Polaris Ranger 4x4 with snowplow to keep the road clear, and we exited to the grocery store several times in my car during the week. As we left at the end of the week, I decided to take the lead in that I might have to help tow Kristen. I made it to the top of the hill, but Kristen promptly slid sideways into the snowbanks. After a couple of hours' effort and failure, towing her forward with my car, and towing her back with the 4x4, darkness descended and we loaded a few essentials in the back of the 4x4 and returned to the house for the night. In the morning, I finally succeeded in backing her car back to the parking lot with Fisher towing in the 4x4. I then backed my car back to the parking lot, and called the tow service girl for help. She arrived in her big pickup and plow, made a couple of passes, hooked up some straps to Chris's car, and I drove while she towed the front-wheel drive out to the top of the hill. I walked back to the parking lot and drove my all-wheel drive out with no problem. Lesson learned. In the winter, all-wheel drive or chains are required. Merlene and I both came down with the crud that week. I think it could have been the now weaker COVID Omicron virus, and at this writing, a week later, we are still recovering. A quick look at this current time. Gas is about $3 per gallon. Biden is president and seems to be declining with dementia. Donnie has purchased the Maple warehouse. Social media is censoring all conservatives. The government has reported that UFOs are real. Les Stark is trying to update his book and is no longer funny.